They wove their deception like a fine tapestry, each thread laced with falsehood, each stitch pulled tight with a smug grin. They thought they were clever, that their hands moved unseen, their whispers unheard. Oh, but the silence does not mean blindness, and the absence of thunder does not mean the storm has been canceled. God watched, with patient eyes, with infinite knowing, with the kind of stillness that makes the guilty tremble in the dead of night. They played their games, stacking their illusions like a house of cards, never realizing the breath of divine justice was already gathering, ready to scatter their lies into nothingness. They mock the heavens, thinking themselves architects of fate, believing they have sculpted their perfect reality. They lie, they scheme, they twist the innocent into pawns, all while wearing masks of virtue. The deception seeps into every word they speak, every action they take, yet they never stop to wonder, who is truly watching? Who sees beyond the veils they have woven? Who hears the confessions they have never uttered? Oh, the arrogance of mortals who think they have outmaneuvered the divine. The comedy of it all, the sheer lunacy, is that they are not just deceiving others, they are deceiving themselves. They think they are safe behind their carefully constructed facades, that their sins have no witness. But justice does not sleep. It does not blink. It does not forget. The world may be deceived. The fools may applaud. But there is no applause in the chambers of judgment. There is no ovation when the truth finally rises from the depths. They mistake delay for denial, believing that just because the axe has not fallen yet, it never will. But judgment is not a man's hand, weak and trembling. It is a force, a decree that does not waver. When it moves, it does not warn, it does not negotiate, it does not reason. It simply falls. They thought they could write the story, shape the ending, hold the quill and ink their will upon destiny itself. But the pen was never in their hands. The ink they used was borrowed time. And the page? It was never blank to begin with. It was written long before they even drew their first breath, long before their wicked thoughts ever took root. They danced in the darkness, thinking no one saw. But light does not beg to be noticed. It simply arrives, and when it does, shadows do not argue. They do not resist, they vanish, and so shall their lies, their illusions, their delusions of control. Oh, they will scream when it happens. The same mouths that whispered deceit will cry for mercy. The same hands that wrote falsehoods will reach out in desperation. And the same minds that plotted in secret will crumble under the weight of revelation. They will plead, they will beg, they will promise to change, but it will be too late. The heavens are not deaf. They have never been. The only ones who have refused to listen were those who thought themselves above consequence. How foolish, how utterly blind. They ridiculed the idea of justice, mocked the belief in divine reckoning. But belief is not required for truth to exist. The sun does not need permission to rise, nor does the storm need validation to rage. Judgment does not seek approval. It does not ask, "Are you ready?" It simply arrives, uninvited, unstoppable, undeniable. And when it does, they will learn what it means to be truly powerless. The web of deception they so skillfully spun will become their own suffocation. The lies they spread will return to them, amplified, multiplied, as the weight of every falsehood crushes their souls. They will watch in horror as their carefully built empires turn to ash, as their voices, once so smug and confident, become choked with regret. The applause of the blind masses will die down, and all that will remain is the silence of realization. The moment they understand that they were never truly in control. They never held the reins. They were only galloping toward their own doom, too arrogant to see the cliff's edge approaching. And as the abyss finally opens beneath them, as the storm swallows them whole, as the fire consumes their paper-thin thrones, they will look up. They will see the eyes that never stopped watching. They will see the truth they tried to bury. And in that final moment, as the weight of their own deception pulls them under, they will understand that this was never cruelty. It was never vengeance. It was simply justice fulfilling its course, a reckoning long overdue. But this is only the beginning. The storm has just begun to form. The wind has only started to whisper. And soon, they will realize that there is no place left to hide, no mask left to wear, no lie left to tell, because divine judgment does not need proof. It does not need witnesses. It only needs time. And time is up. The hands of justice move unseen, relentless in their purpose. The weight of their deception, their endless charades, now drags them into the abyss. They once laughed at consequence, treating morality as a game, believing they had outwitted the very fabric of truth. But no game lasts forever. No illusion remains unbroken. They mistook mercy for weakness, mistook silence for permission. But the heavens were never silent. The voice of truth was only waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They thought themselves untouchable, but their own footsteps led them to the slaughter. They built their castles on sinking sand, mistaking fleeting victories for eternal triumphs. They did not understand that every falsehood, every manipulation, was another stone in the weight around their necks. And now the weight has become too heavy. Now there is no escape. The divine decree has already been spoken. The sentence is written in the wind, in the shifting tides, in the growing shadows that inch closer and closer. They spent their lives believing they were predators, never realizing they were the prey all along. The world was their playground, their stage, their empire of deceit. But judgment is no audience. It does not clap, it does not cheer, it does not recognize the kings and queens of falsehood. It only delivers what has been long overdue. And as the first cracks appear in their perfect illusions, as the sky darkens and the air grows heavy, they will understand that this was never a warning. This was never a threat. This was always a promise. And promises, especially those written by the hands of the divine, are never broken. The storm is here. The time has run out, and there is no place left to run. And yet, watch them. Watch how they scramble, like rats fleeing a sinking ship, like insects scurrying under the weight of a boot that is yet to drop. The walls of their illusions are crumbling, yet they claw at the debris, desperate to rebuild what is already lost. Panic twists their faces, their once arrogant eyes now darting, searching for an escape that does not exist. They believed themselves untouchable, but touch is no longer needed. The judgment that has come for them does not need to raise a hand. It is not flesh and blood. It is inevitability itself. They once walked with their heads held high, their laughter filling the air, their deception woven so seamlessly into the world that they mistook it for truth. But the weight of their own misdeeds now bears down upon them, pressing against their chests, making every breath a labor, every moment a torment. They feel it now, the shift in the air, the silent pull of something unseen, yet undeniable. It is a presence they once ignored, a force they once mocked. But now it is all they can feel. They reach for the same lies that once shielded them, speaking words that once carried power, but the air no longer bends to their voice. The illusion is broken. The masks have fallen, and the world that once danced to their tune has gone quiet. The silence is deafening, a void where their influence once thrived. The eyes that once looked upon them with admiration now hold only suspicion. The voices that once echoed their falsehoods now speak only in whispers of doubt. Their kingdom is collapsing, not in fire, not in violence, but in something far worse, in revelation. The truth, the one thing they never thought would surface, is rising from the depths. And no force of man, no web of deceit, no frantic denial can bury it again. It is relentless. It is patient. And now, it is here. The hands they once used to pull strings, to manipulate, to control, are now trembling, empty, useless. They who once dictated the course of others' lives now find themselves at the mercy of a force that will not negotiate. They cry out for understanding, for another chance. But justice is not a beggar. It does not barter. It does not plead. It only delivers. Watch them as they turn on each other. The alliances built on deception crumble like sandcastles against the tide. They scramble to assign blame, to distance themselves from the very sins they once embraced. Their voices, once dripping with confidence, now crack with desperation. They point fingers, they push each other aside, but the verdict has already been cast. There is no scapegoat for judgment. There is no substitute for consequence. They thought their power was absolute, that their will was law, that their reach was infinite. But now they understand. Power was never theirs to begin with. They were but actors in a play whose ending was written long before they took the stage. And now, the final act has begun. The curtain is closing, and there is no encore. They cry for mercy, but mercy is not given to those who never offered it. They scream for time, but time is a luxury they squandered long ago. They beg to rewrite their fate, but the ink has long dried. Every lie, every betrayal, every act of cruelty has led to this moment, and there is no undoing what has already been set in motion. Look at them now. The proud reduced to the pitiful, the mighty brought to their knees, the architects of deception caught in the collapse of their own design. There is no dignity in their downfall, no honor in their defeat. They wanted control, they wanted dominion, and now they have neither. The storm does not pause, the fire does not dim, the judgment does not waver. And the worst part? The realization that this is only the beginning, because judgment does not strike once. It lingers, it festers, it unfolds, piece by piece, hour by hour, turning what was once a single moment of reckoning into an eternity of torment. It will not allow them to forget, to move on, to bury the past and continue as they once did. No, it will haunt them, weigh on them, break them in ways they never imagined. They will look around and find no solace. Every ally is now a threat, every refuge now a prison. The hands they once shook now recoil. The faces they once trusted now twist in contempt. The very world they built upon deception has become the cage in which they will rot. And the most harrowing truth of all, This fate is not unjust. It is not cruel. It is simply deserved. So, they sit in the ruins, eyes hollow, breath shallow, hearts beating a rhythm of panic they cannot silence. And still, judgment watches, unblinking, unwavering, waiting for the final piece to fall. Because the reckoning is not yet over. The storm has only just begun. And as the night stretches on, they will find no escape. They will drown in their own thoughts, tormented by the echoes of the past, each moment more unbearable than the last. Regret will claw at their insides, whispering of roads they could have taken, choices they could have changed. But there is no comfort in hindsight, no salvation in self-pity. They forged this reality with their own hands, and now they must sit within its walls, suffocating beneath the weight of their own sins. The stars above do not weep for them. The wind does not mourn their fall. Nature itself moves on, indifferent to their suffering, leaving them alone in the vast, empty silence. And in that silence, they will come to understand what true despair feels like. For this is not just a punishment. This is the balance being restored. And nothing, no plea, no prayer, no desperate act of defiance will change what is written. Their time is over, and judgment will never forget them. But what is memory to judgment? It is not nostalgia, nor sentimentality. It is not the kind that fades with time, eroded by regret, or softened by forgiveness. No, this memory is eternal, carved into the fabric of consequence, a living reminder that no betrayal vanishes without a trace. Judgment does not release its grip. It does not absolve. It lingers like a phantom, relentless and unshaken, ensuring that the guilty never know peace. They sit within the remnants of their ruin, their hands clutching at the air as if grasping at a salvation that will never come. The weight of their downfall presses upon them, each second stretching into an unbearable eternity. They do not cry out anymore. Their voices have been stolen by the void. The only sound left is the ragged draw of breath. The breath of those who wish they could cease to exist, yet are cursed to endure. The walls close in around them, not of stone, but of consequence. There is no door, no exit, no escape from the prison of their own making. Shadows move where there is no light. Whispers echo where there are no lips to speak them. The air thickens, not with fear, but with the cruel certainty that they are being watched, not by men, nor by gods, but by the specter of their own sins. Each misdeed, each deception, each twisted word they wove into the world has now returned, a sentient force with only one purpose, to collect its due, and it will take everything. Their dreams are not a refuge. No, in sleep, they find no reprieve. Their slumber is plagued by visions of the past, the faces of those they wronged emerging from the darkness, unblinking, unrelenting, offering no accusations, just silent, knowing stares that burn into their marrow. They jolt awake, gasping, only to find that the nightmare is not confined to the realm of dreams. The horror is real. The dread is unending. There is no moment of stillness, no second of respite. The very air they breathe feels poisoned, thick with the reminder of what they have done. The weight of unseen eyes settles upon them, pressing into their skulls, dragging them down into a madness from which there is no return. Every step forward feels like a step deeper into the abyss, and yet, standing still is no better. The torment follows, a shadow that no light can disperse. How long has it been? Time does not move the way it once did. Minutes stretch into hours, hours into lifetimes. The past, present, and future blur into one long, unbroken moment of suffering. The world has not forgotten them. No, the world has moved on without them, leaving them to rot in the echoes of their own cruelty. And that is the most unbearable truth of all. Not that they are punished, not that they are forsaken, but that they are irrelevant. The whispers grow louder, no longer external, but internal, a voice within their own minds, curling around their thoughts like ivy around a withering tree. It speaks in truths they do not want to hear, in revelations they cannot escape. It reminds them of the moments they dismissed as insignificant, the wounds they inflicted without a second thought. It recounts, with perfect clarity, the destruction they left in their wake. And with each whispered word, the walls of their psyche begin to fracture. Their hands shake, their breath stutters, their vision blurs. And yet no one reaches for them. No one extends a hand. No one listens to their silent cries. They spent a lifetime making themselves the center of every room, the architects of their own empire of manipulation. But now they are nothing, less than nothing, a cautionary tale without a listener. The weight of their own existence becomes unbearable. The walls are closing in faster now, the air growing thinner, the darkness seeping into their bones. They claw at their own skin, as if peeling it away will free them, as if shedding themselves will undo the past. But there is no escape from what they are, no redemption, no rewriting of the story. They thought themselves untouchable. They believed their will was law, their word absolute. But now they know the truth. The world was never theirs to command. The power they wielded was borrowed, stolen, fleeting. And now it has been ripped away, leaving them with nothing but the raw, gaping wound of their own choices. No screams will save them. No bargains will be heard. No mercy will be granted. They will be left here, in this prison of their own making, as time grinds them down to dust. The echoes of their own cruelty will be their only company, their own thoughts, their only tormentors, and they will finally understand the one truth they spent their lives running from. Judgment is not an event. It is a sentence, and theirs is forever. But the sentence does not stop at them. No, it seeps outward, spreading like ink into every fiber of existence they touched. The poison they poured into others now flows back into them, a vicious cycle without end. The cruelty they once justified now coils around their throats, suffocating them with the weight of their own hypocrisy. Every whispered manipulation, every lie coded in honeyed words, every promise they broke to serve their own ambition, all of it returns. And in the return, there is a reckoning. They reach for distractions, for illusions, for anything to dull the reality sinking its claws into their skin. But there is nothing. No laughter, no pleasure, no indulgence will dull the ceaseless gnawing of truth. They are left alone with themselves, and that is the cruelest fate of all. For in the end, they were never truly afraid of judgment. They were afraid of exposure. They were afraid of the world seeing them for what they are. Now, there's no one left to deceive, no mask to wear, no veil to hide behind. Only the truth standing before them, unflinching, unforgiving. And it whispers, not in rage, not in hatred, but in quiet, undeniable certainty. You were given the chance to change. You were given the opportunity to rise. You were given every warning, and still, you chose this path. And so, here you will remain. Not because the world wishes you harm, not because fate is cruel, but because you have led yourself here. You have built this prison, brick by brick, with your own choices. And now, the walls will hold you. The silence will consume you. The weight of everything you have done will settle upon your shoulders until there is nothing left of you but regret. And judgment will never forget.